Hello and good morning, world. Bettina Carey here, and I'm the founder and CEO of WeEmpowerYourLife.com, the website, and the We Empower Your Life community. And I'm here to welcome Paulette Hamel. It's so great to have you back with me. Of course, you were a speaker at this last time's summit, and so glad that you're going to be participating again with us this coming December 8th.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So you are all about creating legacy, and that means creating an opportunity that lasts a life beyond your lifetime, right?
That is correct. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and explore a little bit about who you are, so that folks who are watching can get a little taste of who you are before we dive into an interview here.
Absolutely. My name is Paulette Hamel. They call me the Legacy Lady. And what has happened over many years and transitions has been connecting legacy and lifestyle for impact-driven women. And especially those that are struggling to scale their life, right? And like we do our business, you want to grow. And sometimes that means stepping out of the business and finding time to put adventure and soul nurturing on equal footing with your money-making efforts. And I think the big realizations, and I think this came from you, Bettina, is shattering our shoulds, right? And that someday is not a day on the calendar. So it's taking women through a slightly different journey and saying, let's live our legacy now rather than waiting until the end or until something happens. And first, get our affairs in order. Second, make sure that our life is this explosion of adventure and mindset, as well as the ability to make money in the process with our companies. So
yes, thank you so much for that intro. And so you had a day that was like no other day in your life, when you literally had that call that nobody wants to get. Start to tell us a little bit about that story.
Yeah, it's I was in corporate. I was getting ready for a meeting. I had been working on it for weeks. And when the phone rings and it was my cell phone is on your desk and you see it. And for me, it was a family member. It was my brother. And I thought, oh, you know what? I'll just pick it up because it's family. And I did. And there was no hi, how are you? It was, Paulette, I know you're going to cry. And he said that the next sentence was, it's kind of hard to talk about, actually, because I try not to think about this too much, but he said that he had terminal cancer and that he had less than 6 months. That's what the doctors had told him. So it stopped me. It stopped everything. The next thoughts through my head were, how do I get home? How do I help him? And of course, I started to cry. That's my reaction. And it from there became a journey of going back and helping him while he was in isolation, and him turning to me and saying, I need to get things in order for my wife and for the girls. And he says, I can't go through all of this without being prepared. And I said, no problem. I'll help you get that together. And then he says, but the biggest burden is not that, Paulette. It's mom and dad don't have their things in order. And I was like, what? So for him, he said he couldn't go through treatment without knowing that mom and dad had their affairs in order. And that was a huge burden. And they were at a time where they're downsizing. They were getting ready to have their shift in their lives on what to do with their next season. And that involved selling a home they lived in for 35 or 37 years, I think it was. And everybody's alive and well. My brother's in remission. My parents got their affairs in order, but that took me through a journey of meeting somebody, going to funeral homes, going to cemeteries, getting the information, and finding out how complex it had become. I thought a will that you wrote 10 years ago was valid and that nobody could break it, and it was your word if you signed it. And it's kind of like, poof, that's all gone. You have to have it updated. You need to have the right wording. You need to have a lot of legal ease, and that means requiring attorneys. So what I did is I ended up putting together this aspiration to share everything I could possibly put together for women in particular, because most of them are decision makers in this end of life pre-planning. and decided to put a kit or a plan together if I could. So I came back to the United States. My brother's up in Canada. Came back to the US, and I was able to take my exams. I passed my state board exams right away. I was able to get work right away. I went into the field, found out how antiquated it was, and I'm not a fit. I am not a salesperson. I'm not out to say to a family, here's $5,000 contract that you should have, and oh, by the way, an $8,000 casket, and not my thing.
Mhm.
So I'm treating this differently and saying that legacy is about one part of it, preparing and letting people know what you want. If you have children that are sick, it's making sure that their wishes will be honored. If you have parents that are getting older, it's making sure that you're clear on what their end of life wishes are. But it's for us too, right? Business women, what do you do with your business? What do you do with your assets? And that brought in a whole level of conversation, speaking with women like you, women that are in finance, caregivers, and us ourselves. So that brought to place a mission. And my mission now is to get 1 million women to get their affairs in order. And within that, we've built an incredible community called the Women of Significance here in Facebook. And you can look for me there, and we get together and we talk about all things legacy. So I hope that gave you an idea how I got here. But
Yes.
it was a big journey. It was in some ways a fast journey, and in other ways, something that I really feel will be here long after I'm gone. And I just want to get it in place and help to be the catalyst to say it's time that we not treat 2021 or our world the way it is right now too lightly, because a lot of things require a few hours of paperwork, and that's literally what it is. And understanding what paperwork you need and getting that together. And that's where I take my guidance and pull you through and say, here we go. This is what you need. This is what we can do. And once you've got that done, put it aside in a safe place. Let somebody know where they can find this information. Now let's turn around and focus on business and life, and join me. You know, I go once a year to a special location. Our next location is going to be March, April next year in Florida. We'll be in the Northwest on the Gulf, and I'll invite women to join me. And we do think tanks, brainstorming, but we get together and say, what can we do to change the world, and share that information with others to inspire them to do the same.
Wow, I love the idea of sitting on a beach talking about end of life affairs versus going to a funeral home, crying my eyes out as I did when my father had passed.
I know,
It
right?
sounds really much better suited. I actually had the experience not once but twice handling the affairs of my friends who passed away in my home,
Aw.
and I helped them in their latter months with cancer diagnoses. And the first one was a lot more difficult to tease out because there was no written down anything except for a handwritten will. And there really was a lot of affairs that had not been put into place. And so it was a little bit more difficult to resolve. And then the second one, because I'd had the first experience, I was able to get her affairs all settled up, and she passed away. And, and essentially within hours, everything was all clear and
What a
settled.
difference, right?
It
What a
was
difference.
quite the difference.
Mhm,
Yeah,
when you
quite
know
the
what to do.
difference.
And I know it's not a comfortable topic. It's not a sexy topic. A lot of people are like how morbid, how can you talk about this? And I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying how
Yeah.
exciting that we live in a day and a time with technology where we can take a different approach to talking about these tough conversations, and saying it is a gift that you're leaving the people when you're gone. I think it's prudent and actually a responsibility that we have nowadays to think about this up front. And a big part of what has evolved out of this is starting our businesses. So many of us, I know you have your story too, right? Where we left corporate, we left what we had in this last couple of years and said, here we are, early 60s, right? And we're saying, what do we do? What do we want to do next? I want passive income. I want something
Right.
that's going to be kind of fun to do. And retirement to me does not mean stopping, it means different, right? And then you had an incredible word. It's inspirement. I'm going to use this, Bettina. It's so enlightening. And it's like, if you can go and take all this wisdom that you've learned and apply it to one small part, and then pass that on to a person. And with the internet, pass it on to groups and do group training or do group sharing or do group inspirations. Now we're being the ripple, right? We're beyond the drop. We're not just falling into the pond. We're in the pond. We've hit the water. The ripples are starting to go out. And I'm a big believer that those ripples hit a shore eventually. And that energy, when it hits, comes back tenfold, right? You can apply it to the Bible, right? You get back tenfold what you give if you give from the
Yes.
heart.
Yes. And, I think the other word that you talk about, is that it's really a lifestyle, and it gives you more confidence when you have these things and these matters settled and in order. There's a sense of confidence that you can have about what you've prepared for other people, what's likely to happen after your passing, as I euphemistically say when I go to Tahiti. And
I love that.
At the end of the day, I think it brings peace of mind.
Yes, those are the words.
Recently, my one of my siblings had a death of a grandfather, one of her granddaughters, and this turns out that he has like 5 businesses, and the affairs were not settled, and it's a very big question mark as to which will is the right will and which one's going to be in place. And a successor who wasn't planning on being a successor is involved in the affairs and taking on a very big set of responsibilities, and doesn't have the confidence that should normally go along with that kind of preparation. So these things happen.
Story. Yeah, it's very common, and I don't quite get why we would start something without thinking who would be there to help us. But I think you and I have a similar story in the beginning. It's like we did it all. We can do it all. We will do it all. And therefore, we are all of it, right? We're the company, we're the business, we're the face, we're the media, we're the go-to person, we're the doers, right? For a long time. At least that was my case. And then it becomes getting that team and setting up your business. But I met, I don't know if you know Sharon Lecter, and she just wrote a book, and I don't remember the co-author's name. It's called Exit Strategy.
Oh, nice.
And the exit strategy is beginning with the exit in mind. And this is very true with legacy work as well. Your legacy, we learn with my guidance, we learn to create it first, live it second, and leave it third. Whereas traditionally in North America, our culture has been to not even think or talk about legacy until you're in a crisis, and or you're incapacitated or somebody has passed away. And I'm just here to say, let's change this. And as women, that's the starting point. I want to go narrow and go deep within that group of high achieving women that are looking to get their affairs in order and understand that importance, and are saying, okay, I'm no longer in my business. I'm not the doer in my business. I've got a team. I've got a family. I've got a home. I've got possibly a spouse, a partner, children. Those women in that situation have a lot on the plate if they haven't figured out that there's some paperwork that needs to be taken care of. So I'm not an attorney, but I have done the heavy lifting. I've done the research to say, these are the documents you need, fill it out. And that saves you thousands of dollars to then walk into an estate planning attorney and say, here's my packet. I believe this is what you'll be looking for. And then they'll make sure that you have the right legal jargon or the right signatures and beneficiary discussions, etc. But
get the conversation started. That's all I've got to say. Any parting thoughts here?
Paperwork finished, a lot of people will start, or they're not sure how to have a conversation. How do you have a tough conversation that, no, I don't want my business partner to take over the business when I'm gone? That's a tough one. How do you have those discussions? And then how do you open it up to somebody who you think is a great candidate and say, but you need to be mentored, you need to be taught, and I would like to invite you into this world. And then there's a vetting process, right? Are they going to make it? Is this going to be the right thing? And then with your family as well. what do you do with your wishes? You're sitting there and you have one child and you wrote a will, and then you have a second child and you forgot to update it. And 4 years ago, legal jargon changed within a will and within a trust. So people are thinking something that was executed 5 years ago that was tough for them to do has not been done. So a word of advice or a little recommendation, a tip that I can give you is January 1st, when you're making those commitments to your weight or your health and everything else, if you're like the majority of people, make a commitment to pull out your paperwork and read it. And just make sure that you want it to stay the same. And that's once a year.
I love it. I love it. Make it a top priority at the beginning of the year, and then it's all done.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Paulette, how can folks get a hold of you? What's the easiest way?
There's two ways. You can go to the Women of Significance Facebook group, and I'm in there, or you can go to hello@paulettehamel.com, and I can answer your emails. I can take a call. We can do that too. If people are interested in saying, hey, I just want to hop on a call and pick your brain and ask some questions, happy to do that too.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to feature you at the summit here coming up on December the 8th. I look forward to welcoming you there, and I look forward to it. By the way, if you're going to get a ticket for the summit, go to weempoweryourlife.com. Click on the Summit Tickets tab. Right now, we have 500 complimentary tickets that we're giving away. And you can come for an hour or stay for the day. Either way, you're going to be empowered by the time you get through with your sessions. Thank you so much, Paulette. It's been great to have you here today.
Thanks for having me, Bettina. I love it. Love the work that you do. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody. See you next time.